The Johnson family lived in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of a small American town. The house was a two-story suburban home, painted pale blue with white shutters and a yard fenced in by a row of tall oak trees. It looked ordinary, safe, even. Michael Johnson worked at an insurance office downtown. His wife Sarah was a nurse at the local hospital. Both of them were early risers, leaving the house before sunrise, returning in the evenings exhausted but grateful for the life they were building. Their children, Jacob, 12, and Emma, 10, were inseparable. Jacob was protective of his little sister, though like any siblings, they bickered over video games and snacks. Emma, with her love of sketching, often filled notebooks with drawings of their family. And then there was Max. Max was not just a pet. He was a towering German shepherd, with a coat that gleamed black and tan under the sun and eyes that carried both warmth and fierce loyalty. Michael had rescued Max as a puppy years before, when he found him abandoned near a construction site. Since then, Max had grown into more than a dog. He was guardian, playmate, and silent protector of the children. Every morning, after school, the kids would come home to Max. He would wait faithfully by the door, wagging his tail, and spend the afternoons by their side. When Jacob played video games, Max would lie at his feet. When Emma drew, Max rested his chin on the edge of the table, watching her hand move across the paper. The parents trusted Max completely. In a world full of dangers, strangers, accidents, or even wild animals, they believed nothing could happen to their children under Max's watchful eyes. But there are some dangers no parent can prepare for. It began with small things. One evening, while Jacob was finishing homework, the lights in the hallway flickered. Not once or twice, but in a strange, rhythmic pattern, on and off, like a code. He thought little of it, brushing it off as faulty wiring. A week later, Emma complained of hearing whispers in her room at night. She would wake up, certain someone was standing near her bed, murmuring words she could not understand. Michael laughed it off, telling her she'd just been dreaming. Sarah reassured her, saying the house was old, creaky, full of noises. But Max knew better. Every time the whispers came, Max would stand at the foot of Emma's bed, growling into the darkness, his body tense, ears erect, eyes locked on something no one else could see. The children began to feel it too. Cold spots appeared in the house, chilling patches of air that lingered even when the heat was on. Shadows stretched longer than they should, sometimes bending against the direction of the light. The house wasn't as ordinary as it seemed. It was on a stormy Saturday that Jacob first uncovered the truth. He was in the town library, working on a school project about local history. Among the dusty shelves, he found an old newspaper article, yellowed with age, describing their neighborhood decades ago. The land where their home now stood had once belonged to the Holloway family in the late 1800s. The Holloways were wealthy landowners, but their lives ended in tragedy. During a harsh winter, several members of the family were found dead in the home, cause unknown. Neighbors claimed the family had wasted away, tormented by something unseen. The survivors whispered about the shadows, dark figures that roamed the halls, feeding on fear, driving people into madness. After the Holloways, no family stayed long in the house that stood there. Fires, unexplained deaths, and disappearances plagued the property until it was finally demolished. In the late 1970s, the land was redeveloped, new houses built, including the Johnsons' home. The legend faded with time. Few remembered. Fewer dared to speak of it. But the shadows were never gone. They had been waiting. That winter, the activity grew stronger. Emma would wake to see shapes moving at the edge of her vision, blacker than the night, slipping along the walls. Jacob began to feel watched constantly, even when alone in the bathroom or while brushing his teeth. Max became restless, pacing the halls, barking into corners of empty rooms. Sometimes, he would stand at the top of the stairs, growling into the darkness for hours. One night, Sarah returned late from the hospital. As she closed the front door, she swore she saw something move in the upstairs window, a figure standing behind the curtain. She rushed upstairs, only to find Jacob and Emma asleep, Max lying across their doorway as if guarding them. Sarah brushed it off as exhaustion. But deep down, fear had begun to settle in her heart. The shadows wanted the children. They whispered to Emma, calling her name, promising her safety if she followed them. They appeared in Jacob's dreams, pulling him into endless darkness, showing him visions of Max lying dead. And still, Max stood guard. It was a cold December evening when it happened. Snow fell heavily outside, blanketing the neighborhood in silence. Michael and Sarah had left for work early, their shifts running long. Emma and Jacob came home from school, tired and bundled in coats, greeted as always by Max's wagging tail. But the house felt different that day. Colder. Heavier. The children sat at the kitchen table, working on homework. The clock ticked loudly on the wall. Then, knock, 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 from upstairs. Emma froze, pencil dropping from her hand. Jacob looked at her, wide-eyed. "Don't go up there," Emma whispered. Max was already moving, growling, his body stiff as he padded toward the staircase. The knock came again, louder. Then, the light bulb in the hallway burst, showering sparks. The shadows crept down the staircase, twisting, whispering in voices not meant for human ears. Emma screamed. Jacob pulled her back. Max barked furiously, teeth bared, lunging at the black forms as they slithered down. His body crashed into the shadow, forcing it back, but another slipped past him, sliding across the floor toward the children. The air grew icy. The whispers filled the house. Emma and Jacob ran into the kitchen, but the shadows followed, surrounding them. Max limped into the room, blood dripping from his side where the shadow had struck him. Yet he stood tall, forcing his broken body between the darkness and the children. With a final, desperate bark, Max lunged. The house shook as light exploded through the kitchen, a searing brightness that burned the shadows away. When the light faded, the children opened their eyes. The shadows were gone. But Max lay still. His body stretched protectively in front of them, chest no longer rising. His fur was singed, his eyes closed. The children clung to him, sobbing, whispering, "He saved us." When Michael and Sarah returned, they found the children curled beside Max's body. The house felt different, emptier, lighter. The shadows were gone. The Johnsons buried Max in the backyard, beneath the oak tree he loved. Emma placed her sketchbook beside him, a drawing of their family with Max in the center. From that night on, the children sometimes heard him. A bark in the distance when they felt afraid. Footsteps in the hall when nightmares woke them. Max was gone. But his spirit never left. The shadows had been defeated. Because love, loyalty, and sacrifice are stronger than fear. And Max proved it. With his last bark. What we humans cannot feel, animals often can. What we cannot see, they can see, and they can sense. If you have a dog in your home, pay attention. When he suddenly growls into the empty hallway, when he stares into the dark corner of a room, when he makes a strange sound in the middle of the night, understand this. He may be watching something you cannot. He may be standing between you and something that wants to harm you. Because a dog is more than just a pet. A dog is a guardian, a protector, a shield. And sometimes, they fight battles for us in silence. Battles we will never see. battles they may not survive. But they fight anyway. Because that's what love means. Just like Max. He gave his last breath to save the ones he loved. So the next time your dog barks at the shadows, don't be afraid. Be grateful. Because he might just be protecting you from something you'll never see.